Okay, Coach, first and foremost, trade deadline is out of the way. And obviously, the general manager, the front office, they handle everything. You focus on what's on the floor. But is there a sense of relief, and I imagine there is amongst the players too, once that 12 o'clock, once it reached 12:01, you know your team is here, especially with the lack of moves this year. Is there a sense of relief knowing that it's out of the way, that distraction is gone, and now you can focus on basketball again?
Yeah, and the biggest reason why is guys are human, and I say this all the time. A lot of people look at guys in the NBA or NFL or these elite athletes as guys that can take care or handle anything or everything because they're getting paid that much money or because they're put on a pedestal. But they're human at the end of the day, and there are emotions during this time that sometimes you have a hard time controlling. Whether you like it here, or you don't like it here. Especially if you have a family and your family likes it here and you got kids and stuff in school and all that. So to be able to get that worry or distraction off of everybody's plate and be able to move past it is a huge thing.
De'Aaron Fox, Domantas Sabonis, first time the Kings have had two All-Stars since 2004. But I want to pose this question and a focus on the team and less on the two of them, although you've been a big advocate for the two of them getting the recognition that they deserve. But when you have two All-Stars selected from your team, how does that positively reflect on what the other guys are doing and what you're building here?
It's huge because, they couldn't have done it by themselves. Their teammates have to make shots, have to set screens for them, have to run the floor for them, have to space the floor. I mean, all these little things their teammates have to do in order for them to have success at a high level is there. And so their teammates have a lot to do with the success that they're having as individuals or the recognition that they're getting as individuals. And we talked about that today. And Domas and Foxy, they're very good. They understand that. They're extremely supportive of their teammates, just like it's vice versa. And it's a recognition that not just those two guys can cherish going there, but myself, the rest of our staff, because even our staff is part of what you're saying. Those guys work hard with those guys, and they've been working hard since the summertime. Doug Christie went with Domas to Lithuania, during camp and all that, and Luke spent most of the summer with Foxy down in San Diego. So all those guys, from their teammates to the staff, work extremely hard in trying to see that not only that those two succeed, but everybody else. And when you get individual recognition at the highest level like they have, we all are able to puff our chest just a little bit more.
You've spoken multiple times this season about wanting to get this group to learn how to win, and they have to kind of learn how to win at the highest level. And of course, people think getting experience, getting playoff experience, and hopefully they get that. But what about the experience of these final 28 games where you have teams that have been there before, that have the rosters that they have chomping at your heels, and you have to kind of sustain or maintain where you're at in a playoff race? How valuable is that experience to this team taking themselves to the next level?
It's huge, and I tell our guys this all the time. I truly believe, and some people may disagree with me, but I truly believe it's easy to get into the mix. It's easy to ascend into the mix as long as you play hard, you're organized, you try to compete, you try to do things the right way, and you get a little lucky. Plus, you're healthy. If you do those things, you have a chance to get into the mix. Now, once you're in the mix, and people are trying to take you down from there because they want to be there, or they know that you could be a threat, so they're going to even play that much harder against you. Now this is where, to me, the season really begins. Going into the break, everybody kind of lets their guard down a little bit because guys want to spend a few days with their family here or there or whatever. They may be tired mentally, physically, they want a little rest. And so we've been talking about it as a group. We can't let our guard down. We're not in position to do that right now going into the break. Now the break happens, and then after the break, that's when the real stuff happens. That's where the big boys step up, and they play the game to win. You're going to have less guys sitting out because of rest. You're going to have more guys gunning at you for 48 minutes than maybe playing 2 quarters and seeing what happens at the end of the game, especially if you're sitting in the spot that we're in. So I'm excited to see how we respond the rest of this break, the rest of these games before the break, but more importantly, coming out of the break, because teams are now ready to start their season and fight these last 28 games to jockey for position. And then on top of it, the last thing I would say, the teams that know they don't have a chance, that's when the basketball is really bad for those teams. So we may have a couple of games that we should be able to win, but the rest of them, They're about as real as they can get until you get into the playoffs.
I want to go back to when you were assessing your interest in this job and accepting this job. We've heard De'Aaron say multiple times part of the reason why he wants to be here is he wants to be part of that team that ends the playoff drought. And I'm sure you and this roster are sick of talking about that playoff drought that you haven't been a part of to this point. But I'm curious, has it dawned on you or have you thought about it all, the feeling of redemption for the city or being a part of the group that finally snaps that long playoff drought and brings playoff basketball back here to Sacramento?
Yeah, you think about that, but also I want everybody to know that I didn't, whether we hadn't been in the playoffs in 3 years or 10 years or 1 year or we were last year, I didn't, that wasn't my sole purpose for coming here or the biggest reason for coming. I came here to win and not to break any record. It just so happens we can do this, and all that other stuff. But my intention from day one is to win. And just like, some people say, oh, all you got to do is make the playoffs. No. I'm not coming here for that. And our guys aren't thinking that way too. We're trying to win at the highest level. And then when we get to the playoffs, we're trying to advance because we want to win a championship just like everybody else. Now if it doesn't happen, will we be disappointed? Yes. But having said that, I also know that even right now we have a lot of room to grow, and that's what makes this really exciting. For the fans and all that, yeah, they deserve, us to be in the playoffs, and, you feel the excitement when you're around town and all that. So for them breaking that streak, yeah, because I'm in love with Sacramento. And so that's part of that, but not for me individually. For me, it's about going out and winning at the highest level, and I believe our guys feel that way too right now.
Well, and speaking of the fans, you've experienced every fan base over the course of your career multiple times. You've coached for many different fan bases and been a part of those teams. What is it about Sacramento's fan base that makes them unique or different, specific to this is Sacramento basketball and nobody else can replicate what Sacramento basketball is?
It's the passion. I mean, the passion it's unbelievable, and it's real, and it's, there are some markets out there that are passionate about their team because it's cliche or whatever, or it's the cool thing to do, around town. But this fan base is strictly about being passionate for this team because they want this team to be able to represent them in front of a national audience or in front of the rest of the U.S. And they want everybody to know that people in Sacramento not only are great people, but they're passionate about whatever we put forward as a city, and we want people to take notice.
Is there anything about Sacramento, and it doesn't have to be with the organization or the fan base, but just Sacramento period, that surprised you now that you are a citizen and now that this is your home?
I said this earlier in an earlier interview. I have friends that live here, and when I was living down in San Francisco, they tell me all the time that Sacramento is a great city, and coming up here you can feel it a little bit. But I hope nobody takes offense to this, but I am really surprised at how great a city it is. I mean, again, I thought it was a good city, and my friends thought it was a great city. This is a big time city, and myself and my family have enjoyed it from day one, and we hope we can be here a long time and be a part of the community.
Well, if I can get into the weeds a little bit of of coaching philosophy, you have the respect of the players to where you can, whether it's publicly or privately, call them out, coach them up, do what you need to do to hold them accountable. And in the modern NBA, where it's so player-driven and star-driven, I imagine it's not always easy to get that respect. What does a coach do in the modern NBA to not only earn the ear of the locker room, but establish the relationship with the players that you have here, where not only do they want to be held accountable, they want to be coached by you?
Well, the first thing is, I always feel like when you're getting or when you're beginning a relationship with somebody, especially on the NBA level, it's not always about basketball, so when I talked to these guys initially, it wasn't basketball. I don't think I said anything to them. I might have gone on the court twice from when I took the job until training camp and said something to the group or team or whatever. For the most part, I just sat and watched, and then when they got done working out or whatever, I talked to them about their families, how they're feeling, about the rest of their teammates, but nothing X and O or anything like that, because I genuinely wanted them to know that I want to get to know you first instead of starting to work with you right now. It's not even time to work, and so establishing that friendship initially builds respect. And when respect starts to build, that's when, especially if you're consistent with the way you behave, that's when the trust happens. And so for me, more than anything else, it doesn't always have to be about basketball with those guys, and it puts them more at ease, and it allows them to trust you a little bit more. And then over time, you just tell them the truth. And not only do you tell them the truth, but you also tell your best players the truth in front of them. And if a guy like Domas is allowing me to coach him, or a guy like Foxy is allowing me to coach him, or even HB, who's won a championship, then everybody else kind of has to fall in line. And so I'm an equal opportunity guy when it comes to coaching guys, and I don't take none of it personal. If they need to say something back to me, say it. Let's get it all out on the table and then move on from there. So I think they understand that, they feel that, and that helps a lot when it comes to me being direct and or coaching them hard.
One of the most surprising parts of this season has been the success of the team on the road. The best road record in the Western Conference, and at least by my understanding, that is the sign of a good team, is having that success on the road. How do you explain how this team has been so successful and managed to turn 7-game road trips where there's adversity into still 4-3 or 3-3 during a 6-game trip earlier in the season? Where does that success with this team come from?
At the end of the day, I truly believe it comes from their competitive nature. And, things aren't going to always go right, especially when it comes to X's and O's. There are going to be times when this guy's tired or that guy's tired. And if you are willing to compete and you're deep, especially when it comes to guys that you can put out on the floor that are willing to compete, you're going to have a chance. You're going to have a chance to win almost any game, whether you're at home or on the road.